All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, August 19th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Aaron Foley Chan.
Wow. So there
Wow.
are shocked listeners out there who are thinking, what is going on? Now, most of
What
them
have they
aren't.
done?
Yes. So Pat is on vacation. He's taking 2 episodes off, which, listen,
Is this
previously,
two consecutive off
yeah,
episodes?
it's interesting that you say that because that was a sticking point for me, but I guess it's no longer a sticking point because now the shoe is on the other foot. Now, I, I'm gonna get this out of the way. When I was gone, those 2 episodes, the show had a, how do I say, negative atmosphere, and
Okay.
I am not going to start that road. I'm not going to enter that tunnel. So I'm just going to say it up front. This is a no negativity zone, right? So we're not going to talk about violence towards co-hosts who aren't here. We're not going to talk about job replacement. We're not going to talk
We're
about
not going to
any of those things.
speculate. We're not going to speculate as to whether or not heads are attached to bodies.
No, these are
None of
things
that.
we're not going to do. I mean,
Right.
I just want to say, as a as a as a person, right?
Mhm.
Coming from the personal perspective, Pat is my partner in this venture. When he's gone, I miss him, right? I love that I get to have you on, a longtime friend, a wannabe girl, a wannabe mommy, a wannabe person with a baby.
Person with a baby.
All of these things, right? So this is great. So I will say, Pat, you know, I do miss you, and I hope you're enjoying your vacation, not on American soil, obviously, because it's not good enough for him. He's got to just. You love America, right?
I love America.
Thank you.
Of
You love
course.
America. I mean, listen, it's a rainy day in New York. What could be better?
It's thunderstorms. My dog's freaking out.
Great. Perfect.
It's total bliss.
So, whatever you're feeling about Pat, obviously you've known each other for a very long time. We don't need to get into long-standing animosity or anything like that. Not that you have any, but knowing Pat, it's a definite possibility. What we're going to do here is we're going to do the show like we normally do the show, with a little bit of a breath of fresh air.
Sure. We're going to just talk about the box office. Two friends who've known each other for a long time
Yes,
and love movies.
and seen many a movie together. So let's start out. And as the guest, would you like to do a plow?
I would be honored to plow. So, starting at number one this weekend, Alien Romulus. Okay, it came in with 41.5 million in its first weekend. Uh, and Great flick. We'll save that for later.
Okay.
Well deserved at number one, I'll say. Number two, Deadpool and Ampersand and Wolverine made 29 million. That brings its cumulative to 545 million and change. Number three, It Ends With Us made 24 million, cumulative 97.7. Yes, I'm not going to give it 98. Number four, Twisters made 9.8. Only down, I'm not doing the downs. I'm so sorry. Down 35%, bringing it to 238 mil. Number five, I didn't see this coming. Coraline in a
Mm-hmm.
Fathom event made $8.39 million in its, I mean, how many weekends? It's made a cumulative over its lifetime of 86. million. Um, and then, for the rest of the top 10, it's the usual suspects that you would expect: Despicable Me 4, Trap, Inside Out 2. Number 9, Borderlands,
Okay, what is
made
the drop on that, Aaron? Let's say
a
the drop.
drop a drop of 73%
Morbius
from
drop.
last weekend. Morbius drop. It's more been time for Borderlands.
Mhm.
2.35 million cumulative 13.5, which is just not what you want to see. Even for an opening, that would be rough.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Now, I saw this movie. You did not
Yes.
see this movie.
No, I did not. So this movie, it looks like a lot of people didn't. I mean, you are a small part of the population who saw this movie, and you
But a
saw
big
it with your
problem.
husband.
Yes, we saw it
Okay.
together. I would say I
What
saw it because of him.
Okay. So as Jay Leno once asked the great Hugh Grant, what were you thinking?
Um, I thought maybe it would be fun,
Okay.
silly, a little cheesy, a little exciting, a little action. It felt like they were trying to do a Guardian of the Galaxy thing, um, but it was pretty deep in the lore, which I didn't
Mm,
have much of the lore. In fact, something that Danny from I Scream, You Scream for number
the
4
number 4
movies,
movies.
something that he had said on the show had clarified something when I was watching the film. He had mentioned offhand sirens
Okay.
existing, like being creatures that exist in that world. So I was watching it and I was like, "What's going on?" And someone whispered that word and I was like, "Oh, okay. Now I get it," because of what Danny had said.
It is so nice to hear that something Danny said clarified something for you. That is great. And that is what I love about the show. We have many voices on this show, and sometimes clarity ensues. So who knows if
Sometimes.
someone listens to you and is like, "Ah, it's all coming into focus." Now, I have a question for you
Mm,
because you're a longtime comedy fan, as I
yes.
am. And so we know we've been there ground zero with Tenacious D. All right.
Mm.
JB Rage Cage. Do you think this is karmic retribution for JB for throwing Rage Cage under the bus?
You know, he did what he did in this movie before that happened. So I think that there's probably a lot of stuff that we are not privy to behind the scenes in that relationship, that maybe this is more of like a cumulative karma, and maybe that was what tipped the scales.
Wow. So it
But
wasn't just that
this
one single act.
it couldn't be. It couldn't just be that.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's true. I mean, to fly with the angels with a movie like this, you have to be you gotta be sort of a bad person.
I gotta say, Danny had mentioned that Eli Roth had said that he had drawn inspiration from his dog taking a dump.
Mhm.
And in this film, I could see that because there was a main character who took a dump that was pivotal to the plot. And watching it, I was just like, "Oh, there it is. That's
Okay.
that's where that came from."
Now, as a creative person, do you is your idea generation fecal focused in any way?
It depends on the content. Obviously,
Mhm.
everything has its place. With this, and I hate to critique writing I hate to critique a screenwriter. I don't want to critique Joe Crombie,
Mm. The
whoever
great
that
Joe
may
Crombie.
be, the great
Yeah.
Joe Crombie, ungoogleable.
Mhm.
Um, but it really feels like an unfinished script. It really feels like there was a script that then got rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. And watching it as a writer, a lot of times I'll watch a film and I'll think yeah, I wish they had just like let me do a pass. There were so many things that could have been clarified, or so many jokes that could have been tweaked to be much more effective.
Mhm.
Um, and I just my wheels were spinning the whole time watching Borderlands with that thought of just like, oh, that could be funny if you just
Tweak it a
said
little
something
bit.
different. If you said completely
Or
different lines.
if there was just a more of quantity of a shit or the, you know, like, a consistency
It
of the
couldn't have
shit was
gotten
different.
louder.
Yeah.
Couldn't have gotten louder, that's for
Wow,
sure.
okay. A loud shit in that movie. Now, uh, let's move on real quick, to Coraline, which is in its
Mm.
811th weekend of release. Obviously, that's non-consecutive. It was out of theaters for a while here. Now, what is your familiarity with this IP? I mean, this is this some Hot Topic bullshit or what?
I think it is to a certain extent. I saw it when it came out, when it was first a
Okay.
thing. I have not rewatched. Um, I don't know if there are people who have a lot of nostalgia for Coraline. It's
Mhm.
got kind of a Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride-ish kind of aesthetic.
Yes.
I don't know if people are so sick of the super hot, 100-degree summer days that they want spooky season, and so they were like, "Oh, this kind of reminds me of Halloween, I want in." I don't know if
Mhm.
Lord and Miller got us all so in love with the Spider-Verse that an alternate universe full of, spider monsters is what we want. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the nostalgia factor is, but I think it is to a certain extent some Hot Topic bullshit just because it is very dark and creepy.
Well, this made $8.3 million, and we said last episode when Pat was not in England, when he was here doing his job,
Mhm.
that we thought Despicable Me 4 was gonna be number 5 unless something snuck in, and it looks like Coraline snuck in. Now, uh, I am not super familiar with this movie. It made, like 70 in its initial release. It looks like the Fathom event. I believe it's only for a week. But it's interesting when something like this comes out, which was a hit, a modest hit, and does what it does, and then you have things like the Lion King re-release that does Bupkis, or you've
And
got the
yeah,
Pixar releases that did Bupkis. So it's very interesting to see. I mean, I feel like Coraline must have a such like a groundswell of people wanting to see this on a big screen because they never got a chance to. It feels like
and
that might be what it is.
I wonder if it's also because Coraline is a darker film. It's not for little kids. Like Lion King is a rat play, right?
Mhm.
Pixar movies, well, they are about, the
And
dread of
Borderlands was a
existence.
scat play.
And, it found its audience for people who are into that.
Mhm.
But Coraline is kind of an elevated animated horror for adults, and I wonder if that is part of it.
Well, it's based on a book by Neil Gaiman, right? And I think it was a
Mhm.
kid's book. But, yeah, this is edgier for like, this is not for very young rats.
No, no, no. This is for tween rats.
Tween rats. Yeah, so I'm wondering, yeah, email us at theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. What is your sort of story when it comes to Coraline? Is this a movie that is ripe for a sequel? I mean, is this something that we could mine for more movies?
I'm interested to know what's the age threshold of awareness? Do Gen Z kids know about Coraline, or do you have the demos? Like, is this like older
No,
people
so
revisiting?
yeah, so with
Because Fathom, you
Coraline,
don't.
yeah, I don't think you really get those demos. I mean, I can scoot down Anthony D uh for Dirty Words, Alessandro's write up, but no expletive. I usually just look for expletives first,
Mhm.
and then if there's any sort of demos for this Coraline. 15th anniversary release, so 2009. Okay, so it was a 4-day release. So okay. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no demos here. So it'd be really interesting. 2009, 15 years ago. So you're thinking the people are going to see this. If they grew up with this, they're probably in their early 20s, mid 20s, maybe 30s at the oldest. If you're a kid when you saw this, or a
I
tween or
mean,
a
are
teen.
they coming back, or is it, you know, older people who were adults when it came out who are looking to revisit their younger years when they were first considering whether or not their parents were, replaced by spiders?
Okay, so you're throwing out plot in this, and so that's why, like, I had no clue what this movie is about. But yeah,
Oh, it's
maybe.
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just very dark. It's a little kid, but she journeys to another dimension, and her mom is there. And I don't remember if her mom is alive or not in her home dimension. But
Hmm.
when she goes through there, it's like, oh, my mom's here. Everything's perfect, except it's actually not. And everyone here's a monster in disguise.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it.
you get it. Everybody gets it. I mean, maybe
We've all
this is
been there.
relatable content for young people. I don't know. My parents weren't spiders definitively. I know that. So, but the world has gone upside down, as we know. So who knows
Cuckoo
how many
bananas. We don't know.
how many parents are spiders? Now, Twisters down only 35, 9.8 to 238 for this movie, which is domestically great. But again, many people have talked about this doing bupkis overseas, which is worrisome for a sequel. I mean, we've seen movies do poorly domestically and then clean up overseas, like Pacific Rim, and they get a sequel.
Mhm.
I'm scared that Twisters, there's not going to be a Twisters with a 3 at the end because this movie just didn't play overseas. And now there's a lot to do with the marketing. I guess the marketing wasn't well done over there. So
Yeah,
this is a movie you saw in 4DX, correct?
I did. Yes.
Now I've
I saw
heard,
it in IMAX and in 4DX.
yes. So we saw it together in IMAX. Great experience, of course, relayed in much detail by Pat and I when he was here doing his job, and talked about that bucket, that great bucket that we all shared
Mhm.
during our IMAX. Now, walk us through the 4DX, because I've had many a person say they want to see this movie in 4DX. And, unfortunately, you can't see it everywhere. That's why we need more 4DXs. The amount of gleeking that happened, you got gleeked on,
Yeah.
correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In many different ways.
Okay. So explain this. And I don't feel like this is spoilering because you might not be able to experience this. So I want firsthand Twisters 4DX.
Now, there is an option on the chair to turn off the water.
Okay, but you can't do that.
I I don't do that because I
No.
want the full experience. This is what I asked for. This is what I paid for. I'm not gonna go into 40X and turn off, 40% of what I'm spending money on.
So there's a button that says G and there's an NG, so for gleeking and non-gleeking.
Right, right, right. So selected extra gleeking,
Extra gleek.
and that's what I got. I got extra gleek. So obviously it's not constant twisters in the movie, but there's a lot of trucks. It's very, Oklahoma. There's a rodeo. Um, so your seats are moving with the trucks, they're moving with the storms, they're moving with the tension with no payoff between the two leads. Uh,
So there's a
but
tingle in the undercarriage.
there is in the seats, there is like a punching motion hitting your back a
Kidney
couple
punch.
times when you're going, yeah, they kidney punch you when they're going, through a rough sequence.
Mhm.
But so there's two water options here. There's the water that sprays you in the face, and then there's wind. They've got fans blowing in your face. So there is a scene where Anthony Ramos takes off in the van. It sprays mud in the face of Superman, And when that happens, everyone in the audience gets water sprayed in their face.
Mhm.
So we all know what it feels like to be Superman. In the storms, there's wind, but there's also raindrops from above. So you're getting rained on, not a lot, but you're feeling the wind, you're watching the storm, and then it's like when you're outside and a storm is just starting and you're like, "Oh, was that a raindrop? Oh, is it I
Mhm.
think it's starting to rain." It's that kind of level and where you're just feeling a 2 or 3 drops on you, and that happened a few times, which was pretty cool. I mean, it was unexpected. Um, Nothing beats Maverick in 40X, but that was a cool effect.
Now, what are the seats made of?
They're fabrics. So are they fabric seats or are they leather seats? I'm trying to remember.
But they get wet.
They get wet, so they must be that, like, pleather
Okay.
material.
So there's mops. There's plenty of mops when people come in here.
They're squeegeeing, they're mopping, they've got to, because
Okay.
there's the wetness of the movie, there's the wetness of the
Audience.
people watching it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, Glenn Powell's in this movie, so enough said, enough
You
said.
gotta yeah, you're
I
squeegeeing the seats no matter what.
I mean, that's like the Bobby Soxers when Sinatra would sing. Now, I, um, I would like to do some experiential reporting for this show. Pat always tells me to stay in my place and know it. But I'm gonna throw this past you because I feel like you'll be more open to innovation when it comes to the show. Now, do you think it'd be interesting for me to work a shift as cleanup at a 40X?
I am just wondering what you feel like you have to atone for
It's
to
not a
do
tone.
that.
No atone, no
Okay.
atone.
It's more like
Just
you wanna, like, really get into the down and dirty, the grittiness
I'm a man of the
of the
people.
aftermath.
Yeah, I'm a
Right.
man of the people. I'm a man of the people, and then there's something that you say when I say people.
People.
Thank you. And so, we'll work on
I
it.
should never
Listen,
let you finish a thought.
yeah, you can't have you listened to the show? You listen to the show, you know. So,
I'm aware of it.
that to me feels like the ditch digging, the soot mining of the theater working, and
Mhm.
I wanna be part of that. That is my
The lowest
milieu.
of the low. Oh,
The
yeah.
lowest of the low. Like, if I mean, if it's a punishment, if somebody is on their phone, you know, a teenager, I don't know, sexting, whatever they do on their phone, it's up to them what they're doing on their phone. And somebody gets caught and they say, "Okay, 40X, you're cleaning the 40X." I wanna be part of that.
Which part of that process?
Uh, not
Just the
sex
punishment.
Yeah,
Just the punishment
I'm
part.
not gonna do
Okay.
the obviously,
Right, right,
listen,
right.
I'm not
Right,
gonna do the
right. You're
crime.
part of right, okay.
Yes, absolutely. No, I only want to be part of the punishment, not part of the crime.
Right.
Thank you very much. So,
I do think that it is an experience. If they let you watch the movie for free before you do it, that's always fun. I feel like that's
mhm.
part of the Usher experience. Um, but yeah, it's really fun. I feel like you're just gonna need to run the mop over it because the water's already there. But the experience itself is really fun. I mean, nothing tops Maverick when it snowed, but
Mm,
Twisters comes really close to that.
okay. Now, here's a movie that I don't think needs a 40X experience because most likely it would just be, you know, the experience of people at a workplace yelling at each other.
Mm,
Uh, it ends with us, which dropped 52, which dropped a little bit higher than we expected. Pat and I, before his vacation, uh, said that we thought Deadpool and Wolverine would get toppled by It Ends With Us, that Blake Lively would beat her husband,
mhm.
and not soundly, but he beat him, and that did not happen. And there
In
was
the box office.
no, in the box office. There was speculation over the weekend that this would go higher and actually that would come to pass, that Blake Lively would beat her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so you saw this movie. I sort of threw out, have you seen this? And you, going the extra mile, said, I'll see it. And I said, you don't have to, because I already saw it. And you said, I'm doing it. You
I'm
said
doing it.
STFU, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you
And I did it.
And you did it. So you are a woman, correct?
That is what they say. Yeah,
Okay. So
that's
I
true.
am a man, and I think we probably experience this movie differently. I was in a theater with a lot of young women, women of
Mm-hmm.
all ages,
Yes.
and their experience of this movie was totally different than mine. What was your experience seeing this movie as a woman?
Woman.
Woman.
I'll tell you, I was sitting next to a couple
Okay.
who was fully reclined
Okay.
in their seats, actively grinding on each other for the first, I'd say, hour of this movie. And the first hour of this movie is very sexy. It's a courtship. It's two good-looking people, creating a relationship together. And then when the shit hits the fan,
It was
and so to speak,
full on intercourse.
there were some scenes, he's super ripped.
Well, no, I mean
Um,
the
oh,
couple. Were they
oh,
full
the
on?
couple. I don't think they were full on intercourse, but
Okay.
I'll tell you, they were really squirming around.
A lot of
And again,
squirming.
it's like I'm right next to them.
Yeah. That's part of it
Um,
for them, though.
but then when it takes a darker turn in the film, then suddenly they were separated. She was sitting up, he was still reclined. She was sitting up at the edge of her seat, like, and at the end was just tears flooding her face.
Okay.
Um, After the film, I went to the ladies' room, and in the stall, I hear a group of women come in together who had seen the movie together, obviously. And one of them is sobbing. They're talking about how amazing the movie was. They're talking about how they can't wait for the next one. There has to be another one. We have to know what happens. The theater I was in loved this movie.
Okay.
I felt like I was on another planet.
Okay. Okay.
um, but the thing about me is I'm a woman, but I'm also a licensed clinical social worker in the state of New York.
All right.
Um,
Don't bum us out,
not
though.
current. What was that?
Don't bum us out, though.
I'm not going to bum you out. I'll just
Okay.
say that this movie is not an accurate depiction of this kind of relationship. Uh, it's really weirdly. I know that the author wrote the book about her parents. So it is based on a real relationship, but this is
Mhm.
not how these kinds of relationships work. This is not how these kinds of relationships end.
Mm.
Generally, it's not like such an easy thing of like, I've decided to leave, and the guy's like, okay, that makes me sad, but all right.
Mhm.
Um, that's it's not. It's usually a much more dangerous and difficult situation.
Yes.
And this movie really kind of glosses it over, and it's very like 50 Shades kind of an energy to it.
Yes.
Um,
That was my thought.
so
Having only seen the first 50 Shades,
yeah,
and then the parody done by, I believe it was, one of the Wayans.
mm,
I I did feel like that's what this was.
it is.
And
It does feel like that. And 50 Shades. One of the things that struck me when I did read that book, and the protagonist is a 21-year-old woman who is a college senior who does not have an email address and does not know how to turn on a laptop computer. And it just feels like this is written by an older woman who doesn't understand what life is like for a younger person.
yes, well, in the book, the Ryle, the neurosurgeon,
Mhm.
is
What a name,
26.
because he gets all riled up.
Yeah, yeah. He's a
His name is
20.
Ryle.
I mean, he's like Jack Reacher. Some of the best fictional characters are named after uh emotions or actions. Jack Reacher was named because uh the great Lee Childs is very tall, and
Mhm.
somebody would always ask him to reach the top shelf. And so we thought, what a great name for a character, Jack Reacher.
And he's a really tall guy.
He's huge.
In
He's
every
humongous.
book, he's reaching something on a high shelf.
Yes. I mean, that is a true story. So, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna Colleen Hoover is no wee child for sure. He is a mensch of all mensch. I've actually met the man. He's a great man. I don't
Very
know
tall.
Colleen Hoover, but in the book, he's a 26-year-old neurosurgeon. So he's basically Doogie Howser, because you don't become a neurosurgeon that quickly unless you are a genius. And nobody in this book or this movie, because I didn't read the book, but none of the characters
Yeah.
in this movie are geniuses. Let's just say that.
No. And, people, I think when the movie was first announced, people were upset that these characters were being played by people in their 30s.
Mhm.
And Colleen Hoover came out and said, "This is correcting a mistake I made in the book because I didn't realize that you had to go to school for so long to become a neurosurgeon." So that's
Great.
sort of the level of research or intention that went into the book. I think she was just kind of writing from vibes and from her ideas of what her parents' relationship was maybe like, because they divorced when she was like 2.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, her story is her story, but the movie is not realistic, uh,
Yes.
and could potentially be pretty dangerous in like perpetuating this kind of romantic association with this kind of a relationship. But also, just the dialogue's not great, and the press has been so contentious and not great.
Yes, people are not coming
Um,
off good. Nobody's coming off good. I think
Nobody's coming off good.
it's
Yeah.
hard to pick a winner when it comes to that one, because once you sort of have the, "Oh, you know what? I'm on their side," then all of a sudden you're like, "Ah, I'm on no side. I'm on
Yeah. Yeah.
box office side." So what I will say, because we're not critics, huh?
We're not critics, huh?
I I do think that this was a demo that's underserved. Seeing this many young women together in groups going to the movies is good for box office. Now, I always tend to think that what's good for the box office is good for the culture, but I will have to agree with you with the messaging of this movie and the way they make it seem so easy to get out of this relationship is uh is I don't think the best message. And listen, I think people need to talk. If you take your daughter to this movie, you got to talk to her about it afterwards and be like, that's not, that this isn't how it goes, right?
It's like
This isn't how it
watching
ends.
Disney. It's like watching Disney movies from like the 60s or whatever, where or like watching a
You're
movie
like,
from your youth that you loved in the
computers don't wear
80s with
tennis
your kids.
shoes.
But where you're gonna be like, "Okay, so here's what the climate was in America when this movie was made, and you should know that if you do go to a summer camp, this is not what kids do, and this is not what you should expect." I mean, when you're
Yes.
looking back on older movies, but this is a movie, from 2024 where we're still gonna need a disclaimer.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
but
agree.
I do think it is an underserved audience, and when you look at movies geared towards women, lately, last couple of years, they've been doing a lot of movies geared towards older women, and I'm not saying that they
Mhm.
shouldn't
Women of
be
a
a
certain
demographic
age.
that's served. Women of a certain age, and I'm not saying don't serve that demographic, but I think people are sleeping on this younger female audience. We don't have good rom-coms anymore,
Yeah.
and, something like Anyone But You, the legs that that movie had, we really do need more rom-coms, because this movie shows you don't have to have the highest caliber film
Yes.
to really do well, because these girls wanna go and feel swept off their feet and
Mhm.
see 2 hot people, or 3 hot people in case of this
But
movie.
even like Crawdads. Crawdads did so well, something like that. When you look at Daisy Jones and the Six, a show that came out on, I believe, Amazon, if that would have been a movie,
Mhm.
right? Baffa Bobo.
Lava Bubble, and
Because
it's such a huge book too.
yeah, so I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that you have to we gotta get away from these too long miniseries. We got to get back to the movies. And I think that's a lot of novelists. If you've got a book, you got to hold out for a movie, because at the end of the day, more people are going to remember this movie than a miniseries that was on Amazon. They're just gonna. And Daisy 6, I wasn't a huge fan of that book, but it's miles and miles and miles better than this book. But still, this is how you're going to be judged. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey. Those 3 books are going to be remembered longer than Confederacy of Dunces, because that was never adapted into a movie.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
And I think it's also way less horny.
Have you read Confederacy of Dunces?
It's a very horny book. I have to admit I haven't read it, so I don't know
No,
how
everybody
much.
says it's so funny, and I don't believe them. I don't believe. I
It's
look at
one of
that
those.
cover, and it looks so dumb. And maybe I'll eat my words once I eat it, but once I read it, or maybe once I eat
I
it,
started
I'll
it.
eat those words.
I mean, eat those words. Literally eat the words of the book. I started it. I didn't finish it. I wasn't so into it.
Okay,
But
so
make it a good movie, and then we'll see. Then we'll talk.
exactly. I mean, listen, Chris Farley was attached, Artie Lang was attached. Who's next in line to make Confederacy of Dunces happen? I feel like we're in such a society where the large man is no longer a movie star, that you might get somebody who has got great abs. I mean, listen, I'm sure somebody called Chris Hemsworth. I almost said Chrissy Hemme, but we're not scared anymore. And said, "Hey, have you read this book, Confederacy of Dunces?" And he's like, "I don't read books." But
have you ever had somebody very briefly give you the synopsis of this book? Would be a better question.
And he's like, "Could you be that person? If not, get off my phone." So let's talk about the number 1 movie here.
Yes.
A movie you saw. I mean, you've seen them all. You were telling me that you've seen the 8 out of the top 10. You didn't see Inside Out 2 because you're waiting for D+.
I am waiting for D+.
Waiting for D+.
My teenage years were awkward enough. I don't know if I need to get in there.
So anxiety wasn't drawing you to the theater. Anxiety was keeping you away from the theater.
I have enough. I don't need more. I have my own anxiety destroying my brain. I don't need to see Riley destroyed by it.
This is a person who's seen 8 out of the top 10. This is what they did to Pixar over at Disney. You're waiting for D+. I mean, this movie is so huge, but think about how much bigger it could have been if they hadn't demoted Pixar like they did. It still has reverberations. If they hadn't put Soul on Disney+, your butt would have been in that seat.
I mean, it's not a kids movie. So I saw, Despicable Me 4 because I have a child who lives in my house, and I bring that child to movies that are appropriate for young kids. But Inside Out 2 is, I don't even know who it's for. I guess a mid to older teen. But it's not little kids. I don't know if it's
higher
men in their 30s, Pixar perverts in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah, that's about it.
I don't know. It's not a kids movie.
No.
And I think we, sort of like Coraline, like we see an animated movie and our first thought is it's for kids, but it's not. So, I'll wait it out. It'll be fine.
It's for babies, and babies come in all ages.
I guess so. I'd rather see Alien Romulus again.
Okay, let's get to it. Number 1 movie in America where we are. We're in America.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know what the number 1 movie where Pat is. Probably My Penguin Friend. Have you heard about this perversion?
I have seen
perversion from Jean Reno.
Yeah, I've seen his big cardboard displays at the theater.
At the one in Times Square where the Yankoff booths are.
Yeah, they have him there at the from Maxine, straight out of Maxine. They have my
Yeah,
penguin friend. They just put it in
yeah.
there, swapped it out.
It's right next to the
But
Pee-wee plaque.
yeah.
Who got a raw deal?
um,
I hate to make that joke
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it's he got a raw deal and,
R.I.P.
RIP,
Great man.
rest in Pee-wee. Fred Willard also, raw deal, got trapped, that's the real trap. I wanna see
I
a
mean,
movie
who
about the
goes?
time Fred Willard got caught jerking it in a theater.
Who goes to the theater? Like, why go to the theater? I mean, I
If
guess
the
it is magical to see a movie in a theater with other people.
communal experience. Instead of that SNL movie, that's the movie I wanna see. I wanna see Fred Willard getting ready to go to the porno theater in 2012, whenever that was. What year that was that?
I don't
Can you
know.
Google that
More
for me?
recent, yeah.
Because I don't wanna Google it. Not under my
Why you don't want it on your search history?
No, no, no. That would be the tipping point, I feel like. Um, so while you're Googling when Fred Willard got caught at the jerk off theater, let's talk Romulus. Now, this is a movie you saw and you loved. You said this, that you loved it. You
I
said it
loved
here on
it.
this. Now, you know who else loved it? Audiences. 41. Now, we went a little high on this. We both said 45 or 46, but
Mhm.
still in the 40s for a movie that was going to go to Hulu is great. Aliens are alive and well. This opened better than Covenant, which was a movie that was coming off the heels, I guess, 5 years after Prometheus, which was a big, big hit, ponderously.
Mhm.
But here's a movie budgeted at $80 million, already made half its budget back. Obviously, we're not talking about ad spend and the like. But this is a new chapter for this series. This is great.
It's also really bringing it back to its roots, and not just because in the chronology of it, it takes place right after the first Alien. It takes place between Alien and Aliens.
Okay.
So it is directly pulling from Alien, but it just is I've recently done a rewatch of all the films in this franchise,
Mhm.
and as you get further and further along, you get to Prometheus, it's very heady, it's very philosophical. You get to Covenant, and it's just kind of getting weirder because as you go along with this, you're just like, well, what else can we do? How else can we change it and subvert it and give you something new from this franchise? And this movie it does that, but it also brings it back to its heart, which is these are people running in a space station and trying to get away from an alien, which is,
Mhm.
that's what we want to see. And then in the third act, it is just like grotesque and wild and crazy and something that is haunting and new to the franchise, but done in such a cool way that really are like checking all the boxes that you would want from an alien movie. So I really, and we're not critics, huh? But I do think
Huh.
that that sort of, thank you. I think that that sort of take on this material will give it legs because it is a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new.
Mhm.
And I think that third act will have people telling other people, like, you should go see
People.
this. People, thank you.
Yeah. Now, this, I believe, let's look at Don't Breathe's opening weekend. I believe this is, yeah, I mean, this is the highest Fede Alvarez has had as a director, biggest opening. Uh, Kaylee Spaney,
Spaney.
mm,
Yeah.
Spaney having
Kaylee
a
Spaney.
having a stellar year with Snivel War and now this. Lead in two of the number one movies of 2024. What do you think of her? Star power now. Is this big for her after seeing this movie? Is she, I mean, is she the new Ripley or is that like a bad comparison?
She's not the new Ripley, but I do think that this is only good for her. She had her indie Sophia Coppola, she was Priscilla, you
Mm,
know, and then she had big parts in 2 huge movies in this year. I think she needs a star vehicle where she is the draw. I mean, in this movie, she's a value add for sure, but the draw is the aliens. People are there to see the xenomorphs. We're there to see the
Mhm.
face huggers. We want to see people ripped apart, and we want to see, parts of these aliens' anatomies that we never dreamed that we would have to watch. Um, but yeah, I think this elevates her and shows her range, but I would love to see her in something that is featuring her in a movie where she's playing a normal person going through something where, she is more the featured element. But she does a
Okay.
great job in the film. I mean, she's very young. She looks very young. So that's an issue too.
Okay.
She's not necessarily like a strong female, like kick-ass woman kind of a character like Ripley because but although Sigourney Weaver was also very young when she did
Mhm.
Alien.
Mhm.
But Kaylee just kind of has a little kid face. She really, I think, needs something where she plays a grown up.
So we always use the lawyer test. Like in the 90s, would this actor get a role
No,
in
no, she
you
looks
don't
too young.
think
She
too
looks too
young?
young. She looks
She
too young.
couldn't be the
She could be a law
novice
student.
lawyer. Okay.
She could be a law student.
She could be the law student who
Maybe
falls in love with Nick Nolte, who is a lawyer.
oh, I
We're
was gonna
talking the
say who's
90s.
on death row, and she's gotta, I could see her maybe fresh out of law school, like this is her
Okay.
first case. Because when you look at like Matt Damon in Rainmaker or something, he's got baby punum. He's the baby face,
Yeah. Oh,
he
yeah,
is
he's
very
Babyface.
young. He's baby
Okay.
face. Um,
Now, let's talk gore. Let's talk gore hounds. Are they excited by this movie? Do you think there's enough gore and blood for the hashtag horror lifestyle people?
this movie has body horror in it that is really disturbing and distressing in a fun way of like this is a really interesting way for an alien to like rip someone apart. This is a really interesting take on something that we've seen so many times in this franchise. We know the life cycle of a xenomorph,
Mhm.
of the alien. Like we know that it like goes on the face, it lays the eggs in you, it bursts out, and then it sheds its skin and it becomes a big, huge alien. Like we've seen that enough times, but this does all those beats in a different way that is really gross and weird and interesting. I don't want to turn anyone off. Like it is all gross, but it is all done in a really interesting and cool way that I really enjoyed watching. And I'm not necessarily a gore hound, although I have been trying to
No.
watch more horror just because I didn't watch horror for a long time because it was so scary. I'm
Mm.
trying to be a grown up and be a big girl and watch more horror.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're into like Cronenberg stuff, if you're into Guillermo del Toro stuff, I think that like disturbing imagery stuff, I think
Yeah.
that you'd be into it. I'm just trying to think back of the deaths because obviously there are tons of deaths, and some of them are just like you know. Um, for those
Yeah.
of you listening who are not watching on YouTube, even though this podcast is visual medium,
Yeah.
I
You don't
just
have
did
the whole
a
story if you're
exploding
not watching.
hands. Yeah, you're not getting the whole
Okay.
story. I did an explosion with my hands.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess.
people get ripped apart, but also you're seeing just like new angles and new elements of all of those familiar beats. So I do think if you're a body horror hound, that you
Mm.
would be into it for sure.
So you'd be eating. You'd be eating if you're a body horror hound.
Oh, for sure.
Now, let's talk demos. Very, very male, 70% male, 25 to 34 being the biggest demo, 33% of those 18 to 34. Diversity, 43% Caucasian, 26% Latino Hispanic, 14% Black, 12% Asian, 6% indigenous slash other. And these are pretty, I mean, of course, we talk every week about the Latino Hispanic audience just really being moviegoers, loving movies, coming to whatever is in the theater. And but this is a pretty nice diverse breakdown for a 45-year-old IP. I mean, Indiana Jones would be creaming his pants for something like this, right? Because I believe that was what, 100% Caucasian? The demo
I mean,
breakdown for Indiana
probably.
Jones?
Probably, and I think that also is a great deal of the casting of that movie, whereas this movie has a very diverse cast, and it's also young people,
Mhm.
um, however you feel about young people, that's who's in this
People.
movie. People, young, and that's who's in
Wow,
this
we can't
movie, and it
start that.
feels
That we cannot start.
it just feels like a fresh, uh, restarting of the franchise, which I think is great. And
And
yeah, I think it attracts lots of different people because everybody loves to watch aliens rip people apart. That's what brings
mhm.
us all together. And ultimately, the real version of that is what will unite us all in life.
Yes, so you believe our future is the bleak future that's ahead of us is we all have to unite to fight aliens that are going to impregnate us with black goo.
Mhm.
That is the future you foresee.
Ugh, if we're lucky.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I think we could do it. I think we could do it.
Now,
But
Aaron,
yeah,
is
I mean,
there
I think yeah.
Oh, no, you go.
Oh, I just think that, you know, a really good, fun horror movie is gonna have a diverse audience.
Mhm, mhm. Horror always wins, and according to you, the aliens always win.
Well, they haven't lost yet.
True, true.
They are the perfect
Uh,
organism.
yes. Now, was there okay, and I don't want you to spoil anything because I want people to see this movie. There's murmurings online that there is something sort of setting up a predator versus alien situation. Is that just speculation because we had the Predator movie on Hulu last year, the year I believe it was last year, Prey, and now we have Alien. They want to put these two together. It feels like they always want to marry these two in a way where it's like let's let them do their thing and be apart. We don't have to now make these synonymous because they had two movies in the 2000s and one that had the best tagline ever, which is, of course,
No matter who wins, we lose.
yeah. So I mean, that is that if they had not had that, if none of those movies had that, if it was like, yo, look at these two aliens fight, like, then we would never be talking about them getting back together again. Why is one sentence forever linking these franchises,
Because
these
words are power.
IPs?
Words are
Words are
powerful,
powerful.
stories are powerful. Um, as a writer, you can often think, I am writing so many pages of this thing, and will this one line matter if I cut this one joke or if I change this one scene? But when you watch a movie, you often will come out with this one line, this one scene in your head that
Mhm.
is there forever.
Yeah.
Um, I think it shows how dangerous it is when you come up with a good tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I hope they keep them apart, as
I didn't pick up on that, but it could have easily been a reference that I missed. I can see how it would be possible, given how this movie ends, but I think you're not burdened with that expectation at the end of it.
good. Like, as The Offspring said, you gotta keep them separated, right?
They did say that.
They did say that. They sang that, which is even more powerful. If we're talking about the power of words, the power of song, don't get me started. Now, of course, Aaron, do you have anything to say? Did you not Google Fred Willard and his
2012.
2000?
2012. Yeah,
I nailed that.
you
Did I
did.
not say 2012?
It was in there. It was in there. That was clearly something that was really important to you because
It
it
is
was seared into your brain.
rattling around inside this melon of mine. Is there anything you have to say about this top 5 before we say goodbye? And good night and good luck.
I'm just really hopeful for next weekend to see what Alien does. I'm hoping it has legs, like strong legs, long legs, because it does have a really fun, interesting third act that you don't necessarily see coming.
Okay.
And so I really hope that it brings people out because I want to see it succeed and I want to see it continue to run because it is a really fun, scary movie that I think people will like.
Great.
But I mean, beyond that, I mean, I'm looking at these movies in the top 10 and I just feel really good about movies right now. Like in this
Mhm.
time period that we're in. I feel like we've got a lot of good stuff out there and a lot of good box office, a lot of good numbers, a lot of big players, even though things are waning. Um,
You mean
it's nice to
summer
see.
is waning.
Summer is waning, but Twisters is back in 40x, so when it wanes, it pours.
Love it. And we are actually up
Can you cut
from
that? Can you cut that out?
No, it's a raw feed. Fuck it. We're doing it live. We said that.
God damn it!
And
You did say that.
you're lucky I didn't end it on that and just cut the feed. But
I really do appreciate that.
absolutely. We are up from 2019 this weekend, so that is good. I mean, all the talk about sky falling, rainy day in New York, obviously the most important place. I don't know what the weather is in England. I don't care. I don't have to look at that, you
Doesn't
know.
impact us. It's not
I
real.
don't have to figure out different plugs in my wall. I'm a 2 or
You
3
don't have
pronger.
to if it's raining, you don't have to ask someone for a bumbershoot,
No. No,
right?
I
You just
would
ask for an
never.
umbrella. Yeah,
I'd catch my death of cold before I'd ask for a bumbershoot, right?
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think domestically, American box office is doing spectacularly. And some people would rather spend their weeks, you know, in a place where nobody went and saw Twisters, where they rejected the animal magnetism of Glenn Powell. Like, this is a
And
place that you should
I don't understand
stay
it.
away from.
I don't understand how those people's minds are working,
I don't
and
know.
when I don't understand something, it's frightening to me. I mean, I know that 75% of all tornadoes happen in the United States, but that should be more of a reason for them to wanna see this movie and get a
Mhm.
taste of what they're missing out on.
I will just say, Pat is in a place that embraced Russell Brand, where we are in a country that said, "No, thank you, Russell Brand." Politely but firmly. Thank you for your Sarah Marshall cameo or small
Mhm,
part in that, but
mhm.
otherwise, we good, right? Who knows? He
Yeah.
could have the number 1 movie at the box office, uh, where Pat is. It's
Pat
possible.
could be hanging out with him right now, we don't know.
Very likely. Highly likely. Now, speaking of Pat, he did send a voicemail because I'm running the ship, obviously, but, you know, he had to wedge himself in here, which, the audience is going to want to hear Pat. And so I'm going to play this now. Now, I sent this to you, Aaron. Did you listen? It's okay if you said no.
I did not.
Okay. Good for you. I did. So the audience is going to hear what Pat has to say now.
Hey, Clayton and guest host. This is Pat, of course, calling in from Europe, from jolly old London town. And, you know, everyone's probably wondering, how's my vacation? It's going great. It's amazing vacation so far. I'm out here. I just had a gelato, which is, you know, for the American listeners, it's like ice cream. You know, the Americans eat ice cream. We out here in Europe, we eat gelato. It's much better. It's better for you, better tasting. So I had a gelato while I was walking around London town, just past Abbey Road Studios. You know, that's where the Beatles recorded. They're going to have 4 movies coming out the next few years. So I had to pass by Abbey Road Studios, get ready for these 4 Sam Mendes Beatles movies. And I think now I'm ready because I'm out here in London. I don't know if Clayton will be ready for these movies because he hasn't come out here to London to Abbey Road Studios like I have. You know, I'm riding lifts. Those are America and plain billies. They use elevators to get to the top of the stacks. We use lifts out here in London. They're great. They're better. So having a great vacation, passing cinemas. I have seen on a lot of buses out here in London town posters for Alien Romulus. So it's international. They're doing a great job, 20th century, of promoting this movie. So everyone around the world is going to see this Alien Romulus. But yeah, I mean, I saw the top 10, Alien Romulus, $41 million. So I basically nailed my prediction. I forget what Clayton's prediction was. I don't know if he nailed it, but I know I pretty much did. So huge. Good for the aliens. I don't know if Clayton and guest host did a merchandising tie-in or cross-promotional tie-in report like I usually do, and I know the fans love that, but I'm not there. I'm on vacation. But, you know, a lot of alien tie-ins. I saw that they did an ESPN takeover. There's a beauty product line. There were face hugger popcorn buckets, special popcorn buckets. So great job by the Alien franchise of getting the cross promotion, getting the products. Again, Alien beauty products. I don't know if it was the Revlon. I mean, again, Clayton's hosting the show this week, so I really hope he did his due diligence and read a list of all the Alien tie-in merch, cross-promotional opportunities. Hopefully he did that. I don't have much faith that he did, but who knows? Maybe he surprised me. But great job at a 20th century promoting this Alien film. 41 million. Kaylee Spaney, huge opening for her. Fede Alvarez, horror always wins. So, you know, Bread of the New Flesh gets a big win there. So that's the big winner. Big loser, of course. And again, it's Clayton's show this week, so I don't know if he talked about it, but I would hope he talks about this record drop for Borderlands, over 70%. I mean, we always call the giant drop, the 70% drop, pulling a Morbius, and I think after this, it's pulling a Borderlands, because this is a mind-blowing drop Borderlands did this week. And, you know, we talked last week who gets the biggest egg on their face from Borderlands. Not going to be Jamie Lee Curtis. There's a good story for her to tell in the chat shows. It's probably not going to be Eli Roth. He could just make another Thanksgiving movie. He goes back to where he should, which is low-budget horror. Kevin Hart and Jack Black. This is really bad for them. I think it's worse than I even thought, because this drop is the kind of thing that does destroy a star's career. And so I think Kevin Hart, the years of streaming, really put a stain on him, really told people he's not a movie star. So this drop is a disaster for him. And I really want to hear our guest host, if it is who I think it was going to be, talk about Jack Black, Kyle Gass, because Kyle Gass had to be living it up when he saw this Borderlands drop. He had to love it, that Jack Black, the turncoat, stabbed him in the back over a Borderlands. And Kyle Gass is going to love this drop. He's probably sitting back, eating barbecue, you know, prime ribs, whatever it is he does with his time. But he's probably got his face covered in barbecue sauce because he's having a party looking at this Borderlands drop. So good for him. Kyle Gass, winner of the week. Other big drops this week. I mean, Cuckoo, 70% drop. Harold and the Purple Crayon, its third weekend. I think that had an over 70% drop. So it's a great weekend for the box office. But when people reject a movie, they are fully rejecting them now. So Purple, Jack Black, Cuckoo, those are your huge losers this week. Alien's a winner. It ends with us, of course, a big winner. Last thing I'll say here is a lot of people, Blake Lively took a lot of guff this week, rightly, wrongly, I don't know. Is she a good person? Is she a monster? I don't know. But it didn't matter. People went to see that movie. They didn't care that there's old video of her saying to a reporter, look at your baby bump, look at your bump, whatever that was. People didn't care. They went to see this movie. So that's all that matters is it's ended with us, huge box office. I'm sure you guys will talk about that. And yeah, that's my report from London. Basically, vacation is great. I'm doing great. Gelatos, crumpets, tea, all the things that you would hope I'm indulging in, I am. But also, going for runs, keeping healthy, all that. And so great vacation, more to come. And I'll end with this. Tomorrow, Taylor Swift concert. That's what I'm doing. So there will be a report about Taylor Swift, who had one of the biggest movie hits of the year last year. Claims going to say it's not a movie. It was a movie. The Eras Tour of the movie. I'll be seeing the Eras Tour of the show. And a full report on the next episode of the BO Boys. I will be calling in once again from another city in Europe. So get excited. And now, just deal with the rest of whatever this episode of the show is. So good luck to the listeners on the rest of the show, which I'm not on, but you did get me in this segment. So you're welcome, and talk to you later. And hey, guys.
All right. So that was Pat. Over in England, we're going to get another, I guess, what would you call that? Missive from him, spiel,
I guess, yeah. Correspondence.
And because listen, we love to hear that he's doing okay and he's safe. That is what we care the most about, is the safety of Pat.
At least at the time of recording, thank goodness he's okay. Head's attached to the body.
Yes. Heads are attached, which is what I want. I want my co-host, who I've done hundreds of episodes through a pandemic, to be fully intact with head. And listen, hey, call me crazy, but that's how I am. Now, Erin, do you have anything to plug?
I co-wrote a comic book called Neurocron that is coming out with a trade paperback this month that you can order on invadercomics.com.
Okay.
If you so choose. Or you can also, if you have a local comic store, you can ask them to stock it. But you can get it on invadercomics.com. It's called Neurocron, and it's really fun. It's the first 4 issues of the book in a collection and trade paperback.
Great. So you're going to have, hopefully, these comic book shops being swarmed with actually handsome, attractive, intelligent people. The wanna-be-o boys, wanna-be-o girls, wanna-be-o people. These comic shops are not going to know what hit them. They're going to think, are you, or did you get the wrong place? Are you the wrong place? They're like, no.
Is there a model convention happening?
Yes. Yeah. Is there a big brain convention somewhere? Is there an incisive commentary, great emailer convention somewhere? Is this where the Minifans hang out? Because they're all handsome too. But yeah, definitely order. Now, is this a pre-order?
It's supposed to be released this month. So
close the Willard tab and open the other tab.
I can just have a second tab open. I don't need to.
Yeah, but I would recommend close the Willard tab before your husband sees.
So it is still listed as pre-order, but it'll be shipping out soon because they had said August. So listen, guys, just go for it. You'll get it soon.
It'll come. Everybody calm down. It'll come when it comes. Jeez.
I love the demand. I like the outrage.
Yes.
because it means that there's a hunger for it.
Yeah. So I would say to our fans is don't get riled up personally, but definitely go to the comic shop, demand it, and if they don't have it, those spinner racks that they have, those things are pretty flimsy. So you can go ahead and
No, no,
pull.
no, 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 no. If they don't have it, you ask them to order it. If they don't have it, you request that they order some copies, and then that way they'll order
Now
multiple
you
copies,
take
and
the
then you
spinner
get
rack
one,
and you
and
drag it out and
then
you say, "This is mine until I get my book." That's
what
how
we
this works.
what we would prefer is if you just instead try to spread the word to the comic shop owners and show them that there is a demand for the book, and then they'll order, more than just the one, and then multiple people can pick up
Or
copies.
have your drug addicted mom, a la Hillbilly Elegy, come in and knock over some stuff at the
No,
comic
no,
book
just send
shop. And
mama. Send
yeah,
mama. Mama's got more of a control on things. Mama will go. She'll be very sweet. She'll ask to, that'll be a better match
all
for
right.
this
Well,
particular task.
okay. So I mean, the main thing is go in, demand it however you feel you want to
Request it.
demand it.
Request
Okay,
it.
sure.
Yeah,
See,
you
this is
know.
the difference between men and women. We're seeing it right now. I mean, Venus and
Yeah,
Mars right here. Demand
we're
and
so
ask
different.
and request, right? So email us at theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Let us know whether you demand or request. And check us out on YouTube. We are YouTubers. Hi, guys.
Hey guys.
Hey, guys. So wanna BO senior intern Christopher killing it with the vertical clips. I mean, who knows what he's gonna clip from this? So much rich material to clip from. He's killing it out there. The Substack, check out the Substack. We should have new articles coming very soon. I mean, Pat is, of course, on vacation, and he's going to be writing with a quill for a while. So I don't know if that's going to make it onto the Substack. I guess we're on TikTok. Email us, as I've said before. The spiel is not the part that I do. I'm not a brass tacks guy. I'm the
You're doing a
color.
great job. You're
Thank
doing
you.
a great job because you're just hitting all the points that you need to hit. You're letting them know where to find you.
Live
You
show.
know,
Aaron, are you coming to the live show in New York
I've got
City?
my ticket.
Yes. Be like Aaron. And go to the box office, demand a ticket. And we've got
Or just buy it.
LA. We also have Boston. So we're going to have great guests. All those links are in the show notes. Boston, of course, we have the great KIRK Minihane. He's going to be there. That's going to be a hoot and a half. And man, I'm trying to think. Aaron, is there anything left to say?
I think we've said it all.
What about until next time?
Next time.
We'll smell you at the box office. Nailed it.
Nailed it.